Fear. Fear is one of the strongest underlying emotions. Fear is the emotional response to threats and danger.
You know, it's funny. People generally don't think about fear as something that they should conquer and eliminate in their life, or I think a lot of people don't know that it's actually a possibility to work through that and conquer that.
Controlling your fear is the result of strong willpower. Controlling someone else's fear is management. Management by fear. Management by fear has been observed and documented in human history for a long time. Emperors and rulers that made the genre famous and that ruled under direct threats and pressure against the public has been a normal phenomenon. The examples are plenty, and they stretch into our modern and westernized civilization as well. All of these dictators have ruled and conquered with the technique of controlling the fear of their people. One common factor is that they've been using a direct management by fear, where they alone and their organization themselves made the threats to their people, not hesitating to apply their system of punishment when one man does not follow the decided agenda. Management by fear. It is possible when there exists an obvious perpetrator and recipient, and where the recipient is in an inferior position then, whereas fear of the perpetrator. The neighborhood bully normally attacks his victims directly, but for nationwide bullying there's a need for a good and efficient communication system that reaches out to the recipients. A system that's controllable and unquestioned, so the perpetrator can reach his final goal, power. This is the idea of mass media. Around the clock, non-stop information provided from reliable sources such as CNN, BBC and many more tells us the stories about bombings on the other side of the world at the same time they occur. Reports about fearful events are repeated often for the people to bear it with them in their minds at all times.
The terror in London. The death toll rises.
That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. CNN Center right now.
To the west, there are surface-to-air missiles arcing upwards into the depths. A large explosion.
With this excellent provider of information, the using of management by fear has changed and now works mainly through the threats of a third part. When you had a neighborhood bully, you at least knew who he was, and maybe he left you alone in return of a small fee or favor. Nowadays tactics is instead that someone is willing to protect you, for a fee or favor of course, against someone else, often someone you've never even heard of. For this strategy to work, you need a constant flow of fear in your communication channel.
And global terror, the global war on terror, globalization, anti-globalization, and global warming have all made us feel more vulnerable and fearful.
But they, of course, control whether or not a politician's mug gets on the tube. Now that's power. That's the ultimate power in a political realm, is controlling perceptions.
To keep them driving on the right side of the road or the left, to keep them paying taxes, and of course to know that social control is best managed through fear.
During 2008, another major event shocked the world, the crisis of the economy and the collapse of the international banks. The banks run out of money, the media spreads the word, and the people panic. In come the governments with the message: if you do what we tell you, the crisis won't affect you. Fear, perpetrator, recipient, messenger, recognize the signs is the definition of management by fear. Are these examples reality, or are they just created as tools to control you? What will be the next world-conquering event that will help the mass media reaches you and has a message of something that's threatening you, and a perpetrator who can protect you from this threat? The common factors are plenty, and the reality behind every event is impossible to explain in detail. What we can learn is to recognize this kind of management, and what ingredients are needed to question whether the occurred is a fact, or just a created scenario with a motive to gain the power and control over you, ultimately manage your fear.